So welcome back again. I had some time to dry, a little bit over a day. I wasn't planning on that. Something came up, like I said yesterday. So I'm continuing this on what is day 3. And that also gave me some time to think about what it is I wanted to experiment with in this portrait. So I'm going to try and work a little bit on the background. I actually wasn't planning on that at first. I thought maybe just focus on the face a little bit, but I kind of feel like if I go back to the face again, now that I'm going to start fiddling again. And like I said yesterday, I'm not in a great flow because I'm pretty uncomfortable with oil paint still. And yeah, I sometimes forget that I do these things to practice, to experience something new. So I get a little bit anxious about how it's going to look and, that it's got to look right or up to par. So it's not like that feeling is, is going anywhere, but I try to take my mind off it by focusing a little bit on seeing what this paint does in the background, basically. So I'm using a very obvious IKEA family card that I'm not even sure if it's valid anymore, but I'm using it for paint now. You can use cardboard or just a regular palette knife. If you have it, it's gonna work as well. And just see how this oil paint differs from what I'm used to, acrylics. I tried this type of background, this type of, with a card or with a palette knife before. So it's not the first time that I've done this. And I think the risk with oil paint is that you simply put on too much paint and you get very thick layers that are going to take a lifetime to dry. So I'm trying to scrape off most of it. I'm not entirely sure if I like how that's looking, but we'll come back to it later. I want to put in a little bit of the body so that the face is not floating around there. This is pretty wet black paint. I think you can see it a little bit in the reflection, like on the left side where the light's coming from. And what I've noticed with these water-soluble paints is that when you add you add too much water pretty quickly. It doesn't take a whole lot of water. And from what I've read, you're not really supposed to add water in order to thin your paint. But the same thing goes for acrylics. You're actually not supposed to add water, and everyone's just splashing around acrylic paint because it tends to create a very grainy effect as opposed to medium. If you use medium in acrylic paint, oh, sorry, that's very dark. I remember doing this and thinking, okay, that may not be smart. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll fix that. Don't you love experimenting and practicing? Right, we're gonna fix that later. So what I said, like in acrylic paint, normally you add a medium, and that can be a stiff medium, like a gel medium, or it can be a thin medium. either way, what you're doing is you're increasing the translucency of your paint, thus allowing you to create layers or to glaze. And in oil paint, you basically have the same stuff, right? So you have this water-soluble, kind of thinner sort of oil. Don't ask me about the technical specifications. I'm not up to not up to that yet. But you can use an oil medium to thin your paint. So that's the basic gist of it. I don't have any. I said that, I think, in the beginning of the video because, you know, I just want to try out this paint. And I honestly don't really care if it can be better with a variety of mediums. So water is my only addition at this point. What I do notice is when you add a little bit of water and you put it on, like what I did on the face, I actually thought that I was going to be able to blend those edges a little bit, but it dries really quickly, as in it sinks in almost. And that was, I didn't expect that, right? So that's a pretty interesting thing to notice. I'm also starting to wonder if maybe adding some more water, or maybe a combination of water and the water-soluble thinner to this paint might be useful for underpaintings, right? So the first couple of layers, because it dries pretty quickly. So yeah, lots to write down for any future endeavors. I'm just gonna go ahead and see if I can blend this in a little bit. Let's find the shape of the jawline going into the chin. I always find it a little bit tricky to work with. Sorry about that. I almost bumped over my camera. So just lighting that up a little bit. I'm not sure if I mentioned my palette, which is basically not a palette. It's just I have a wooden board, sort of, and I stretch plastic wrap over it and tape that down. It's not always ideal, especially for mixing. So when I mix a lot, I tend to use like a disposable palette or a glass plate. But I'm not really looking forward to washing off a lot of oil paint down the drain. So just some plastic wrap, and I also have these plastic plates that I can use if I want to hold something. So, seeing how this is the last part of this video series, which is a fun thing of doing the voiceover at a later stage, is that you know it's gonna end. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, you know, that feeling of frustration or that feeling of discouragement when you are learning, whether it's learning to use a new material or learning art in the first place, right? Because at this stage, I remember that very clearly. I wasn't sure if I was going to finish it, and I wasn't sure if I was absolutely not sure if I was going to post this as a demo. And like I said before, I know this is going to end, so I can talk about it differently in retrospect, and I can also talk about it more calmly, because the one thing I do remember at this stage, I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated with myself. Yeah, you see my left hand moving quite calmly, but the rest of me is just angry. Okay, and the thing with that is I hear it a lot from people in my course Facebook groups, people that communicate when they do a course or when they join one of the year-long courses, is, you know, the frustration, like, I'm trying this and it's not working. And then you have people with more experience saying, just stick to it and keep trying, and eventually it'll click or it'll work. And that is just a really difficult thing to believe. It's a difficult thing to believe, and it's a difficult thing to feel when you're not there, right? And a couple of things help me with that, a little bit at least, in the past. One of the things that I was very happy to learn was during the course by Una Biagioni, Drawing in the Soul. That was years ago when I did that, was to look back on a project, so finish a project, and then look back on it and reevaluate. Evaluate what you've done, what you like, what you don't like, and possibly, if you have the chance, write that down, right? Because it forces you to look at the pros and look at the cons and say, okay, this is what I like, this is what I want to keep, and this is what I want to improve on. And we have a tendency, I think a lot of people who do art and a lot of people who are creative have a tendency to look at what is wrong with this painting and to sort of let that dictate your entire mood and dictate where you go from there on out, right? But it's really important for any artist and also musicians and actors and Lord knows what, to remember what it is you like, because the collection of the things that you like is what is going to define your style in the end. You don't want to forget that. And trust me, you are going to forget about it. All right, you're going to do different courses, you're going to try out different styles, and you're going to forget what it is that comes natural to you, what it is that is appealing to you, so what it is you like. And then you take the things that you want to improve on, and I would really recommend focusing on the way that you talk to yourself. I'm pretty sure we all talk to ourselves. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to correct myself when talking to myself. All right, so there is no this sucks, or this is horrible, or this is a complete failure. I am trying to make an effort to tell myself, you know, I can improve on this and that next time. And I try to make a little list of things to improve on. And then I take the list and I choose one or two or possibly three, but really a maximum of three on the list. And then I try and improve that and try and focus on that in my next practice session, All right, so don't take 5, 6, 7 things that you want to improve on and tell yourself they need to be improved by the next project. So in short, reevaluate your pros, your cons, write them down, your list of improvements, and choose a limited amount of things to improve for your next session. The other thing that really helped me is to dedicate time to practice and to separate that time from time to do art for other reasons, right? We all have our reasons for doing art. For some of us, it's therapeutic. For some of us, it's a hobby that makes us happy. For some of us, it's a job. So, whatever your reasons are for doing the art that you're doing, dedicate separate time for practice and try and plan what you're going to do in that time. All right? Are you going to do a project where you improve on techniques that you've done before? Or are you, like me, going to try something you haven't tried before? Are you going to do a course? Because that is also a great way to learn. But if you're doing a course, again, try and see what it is that you want to learn. Because there are a lot of courses out there that show a lot of amazing artists doing a lot of amazing things. But the nature of online courses is that they're accessible to a lot of people from a lot of different levels. All right, so there's no school book for you to tell you, all right, this is chapter 1, this is what we're going to learn, and this is how you check it. So that is the nature of online learning. So if you need that kind of structure, it's important that you remind yourself what it is you want to learn. So dedicated practice time. When I started doing that, I improved a lot of things pretty rapidly, because when I am in my dedicated practice time, my goal is to learn. My goal is to practice, right? So my energy is focused on that, and it is not, or less, let's be honest, less focused on getting things right, doing things correctly. And there are even times when I allow myself to completely mess up for the purpose of learning some other technique. All right? And I'm not here to tell you that any of that is easy or needs to come natural to you. It is not. It is not how a lot of us were raised to think. Because I can remember in high school when we had drawing classes, the purpose there was, well, I wouldn't say it was not to learn, but there was very little focus on failing and how to deal with that and how to check your progress and check your improvement. So what it ended up being was it was called drawing class, and some of us were more proficient in drawing than others, and basically those who were more proficient in drawing were there to make everybody else feel bad. That was the general atmosphere in that class. Right? And then you went up to your teacher and she would be like, "Oh my God, that is amazing," or she would give you that look like, "Okay, yeah, drawing's not for you." But that's okay, because the class itself was very, very unimportant to your grades, to your school career. So the motivation to improve in those classes was so low, and it is such a shame. I hear it all around. people remembering being so very demotivated to do art in school. And I know I talked about it in previous videos, what a shame that is. I'm just going to go ahead and say it here, right? Because art and drawing and what we're doing here, experimenting, trying new things, and dealing with the frustration that it causes is such an important thing to learn, right? And it is something that you can learn. You don't need talent, you don't need special stuff. You need some basic student grade paint and some crappy brushes like mine, and you're good to go. And then you need to practice. Because art is a skill, right? It's not magic. It's a skill like woodworking or driving a car. You need experience. And some of us forget that when it comes to art, and especially in these days with the internet and YouTube being so full of miracle kids, you know? It really is amazing. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to record this video and why I'm considering, doing this kind of thing a little bit more in the future. That I think it's important to see what's behind the finished art that I post on Facebook. That is not bad. But there's stuff behind that, and this process is what's behind it. It's frustration and it's struggle, and it's going over the same area 100 times and still not getting it right in the end. Having to decide that, it's good enough for now. I'm going to quit. I'm going to move on to a next project. Making the wrong decisions and not being able to correct them. That's all part of it. It's a funny thing, by the way. I was a couple of months ago, I started learning Spanish because I figured, why not? I wanted to learn a new language. So I chose Spanish, and what I tend to do is I look up on YouTube, I look up some listening exercises and put them in a list. And within a couple of days, YouTube figured that I was really interested in learning a language. The same way that YouTube also knows that I'm interested in learning art techniques. So what it started to push me was videos, I'm not kidding, videos of people who, A, learned how to speak a language in 30 days. Yeah, that's right, 30 days. The second type of video was videos from people who speak 25 languages fluently. That's what I got in my YouTube feed, based on the fact that I wanted to do a couple of simple Spanish listening exercises. And that is sometimes the thing on YouTube, right? It's very, it's almost over the years, the type of videos posted, they get more extraordinary every month. All right, now we have a 4-year-old playing some Bach sonatas on violin, and in a couple of months, it's going to be a 2-year-old, and before you know it, you have 6-month-old babies playing cello and speaking 25 languages. And the thing is that even though I was kind of laughing about that at first, it did make me feel bad for a little while. It's funny how that works. I am in a way sensitive to that. So That's why I sometimes try to stay off um, YouTube for a little bit, and also why I decided to stay off Pinterest in terms of art for a really long time. Is it just made me feel worse about myself and my own process. That's because I don't need to learn Spanish in 30 days, because what am I going to do with the rest of my time? All right. I just want to take it slow. And the same goes for art. Yeah, I'm probably never going to be on a certain level. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But I'm here to improve myself, and that's the whole point of doing this. And even though that is the point, and I do remind myself of it, when I'm not careful, it's really easy to get sucked back in and feel like you're not good enough. And that this is also something that I've felt for a really long time, that I was the only one struggling. And I was wondering, why am I struggling with these things? And I'm not seeing anyone else on the internet struggle with it. So that was a really long story about how it got me thinking to change the type of videos, right, that I upload. And I'm thinking maybe to incorporate this. I'm not really sure how, because I need to do more work and I need to research more stuff. But I want to incorporate this mental aspect more in my courses, right? Because some of you, maybe if you follow me, you know that I've been planning to release a course for a very long time, and I just, yeah, I burned myself out a little bit. But one of the things that I remember struggling with a lot lately is that I just don't really know where my focus lies. I do know where my focus doesn't lie, so that's one thing. But then you got to find a thing that you want to put out into the world. And this might be closer to what I want for myself, is to talk about, how does this process makes you feel? How does this artwork makes you feel? And what does it mean to you to be doing this? Because honestly, I don't want to come off as if I don't care, but I care in regards to my students. I care so much less about the actual artwork that you post as I care about what it means to you and what the process means to you and what it says about you and the way you look at the world. So those are things that I find interesting, and I honestly post a work somewhere and maybe I like it, maybe I'm like, okay, it's not really doing a whole lot for me. But sometimes when you see an artwork that is what it is and somebody tells a story with it, then all of a sudden I can see different things in it. And that's kind of what I want to focus on a little bit more, right? So that's a whole lot of talking. It's becoming a sort of my diary video series, this. I hope you don't mind. I really am trying to get back into filming and trying to get back into this whole thing. So it's probably going to be a little bit messy at first, but here we are. So I think in terms of the face, I'm just going to leave it for what it is now. yeah, like I said, there are a lot of things that I can improve, and I am going to be good and do what I recommended to you and actually write that down. Take that with me. I wanted to get a little bit in the background and see how this paint works with a palette knife. It's quite stiff. It feels very different than acrylic paint. The other thing that I noticed when applying this paint with a palette knife is that when you touch areas with wet paint, what you get is that sort of that marble effect. It doesn't really blend, but it doesn't really cover either. I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about. It's the kind of effect that I don't really like. So yeah, I'm not entirely comfortable with the way that this works in a background. It's nice, though. I mean, it's very smooth, obviously. But it's not really getting the sort of texture that I want without probably layering on a lot of paint, and I'm quite concerned with that because of the drying time. So I don't really want to do that. See, this is the effect that I mean. Yeah, that just looks really messy. Probably going to come in and do a little bit of blending in certain areas with a brush, because it's just looking downright messy right now, and then you got a face in the middle, and it's just so distracting. So that's not really working for me. I'm thinking I might do just some texture tests, if you will. I remember doing that with acrylic and also Golden Open, the acrylic paint from Golden, where I just, try and create texture on a sheet of paper and see what happens. So no portrait or no face or whatever involved. And that might help me get a little bit more confidence, a little bit more variety in this, in any future portrait. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking while I'm talking. Thinking I'm gonna record the test, or I just do a blog post with photos on that. I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit more. So this is just a couple more minutes of me fiddling on the background. So if you're completely not interested in that, you can just turn it off now. If you guys have any like stuff you want to see done, or stuff you want me to try, you want to see how I do it or how I completely fail at it, just let me know. I am currently working on a new course. I have some regained energy working on a course, but I am thinking about doing shorter videos just to post on YouTube or in the Facebook group, wherever. And if you have any ideas about that, yeah, let me know. Because sometimes I feel like, oh, I should do a video on this, and then I'm thinking, maybe people are completely not interested in this, and I also don't really want to do videos on stuff that's already been done like a million times. Or you want me to talk about a certain subject or whatever, and just let me know. I thought about doing like sort of a Q&A thing in a Facebook group. The thing is, I'm just not sure at the moment how stable my mood is and how stable it's going to be in the future. And the thing is, I think some of my group members on Facebook have noticed, you know, when I get out of a depression, I have all this energy not used to having, and then I do all these things and I start all these things, yeah, and then it hits and I drop everything again. So I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic and not commit myself to doing things that, you know, need to be done consistently, which sounds really horrible for somebody my age, but hey, you know, that's how it is. So you got to work with what you have. So maybe do the occasional video, all right, here and there. Let's call it that. So for the last few minutes, in the spirit of practicing what you preach, just gonna tell you what I like, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna improve on next time. All right. So I guess I'm pretty happy with the eyes, the nose, the left hand of the face, and the upper right corner of the background going in the hair. That I think texturally that turned out okay. What I want to improve on next time is the planning. I feel like with oil paint you need to plan better than with acrylics or dry media. So I want to plan my layers better and not start out with this really gray layer that is going to blend into all the highlights and all the shadows. So maybe I'm going to focus a little bit more on color blocking and getting the values in right from the start. I'm also, like I said, gonna give some give texture a little bit of a few tryouts so that I can also plan that better, what I want to put in where. And maybe try an underpainting in probably in acrylic. And so those are the three things that I'm going to take with me for my next session. I'm going to go ahead and see if I want to record that or record part of it. I do notice that recording things is not always good for my flow. So I'm going to take a few days to decide on that. But if I don't record, then I'll definitely do like progress shots and do like a blog post on it. Okay? So either way, I will update you. And thank you for joining me. If you lasted all the way through the end, then yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me also over the past few weeks. And I hope to talk to you either on Facebook or in the comments, wherever you like. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you again. Bye-bye.